The sun is partially visible, the sun disk, to my eye. Maybe that you can see a little bit of it there under the top edge of the cloud. Good morning, everybody. And the whole sun is there, but we don't see it. We just see a little proportion of it. And that light left the sun 8 minutes ago. And we don't have to think about those things all the time because life goes on, but there are things we know. And sometimes we dramatize things out of context. So I just want you to fasten your seatbelts today because the readings are very, very challenging. Yesterday I didn't emphasize when we were up there on Mount Arbel, way up there. So you see the big cave, I'll put it in the very center of the screen. Maybe we can zero in on it. The Australian fellow who was with me went up to the cave, but I stayed over on the ledge at the, let's say, draw a line from the bottom of the cave northward down along. It drops gently underneath that growth, that bushy growth on this rock face, and over to the very edge. That's where we were standing yesterday for the sunrise. And in that conversation, and also at Mass yesterday evening, further commentary on the readings, just seeing Ezekiel's bonding with God's Word, taking it into himself. We pondered that, and I didn't really draw attention to the title of the scroll he read, which must have been hard for him to digest and make his own. And we feel that in the chapters we're getting into, 9, 10, and 11 eventually. Today we have portions from 9 and 10. And they are dreadful, scary. And so sit down, bring yourself into your best position. Sometimes people take words of God that are strong out of context and set them up apart. We need to have them in the context, the whole context. And the whole context is that God created His Son for us 93 million miles away. It's an incredible act of love and care for us, the whole universe, all the life, all the color, the breath of life, the strength and energy that comes from the sun, the food, the light, the heat, the gift of life. This crow got breakfast, but staying a little bit protected, doesn't want to be challenged by others, and secures it on the branch and is gobbling it up before there'll be more competition around for his breakfast. He never had such a big audience for breakfast worldwide. So God is the source of life. And in Ezekiel's chapter today, in the text we have today from chapters 9 and 10, we have the result of human turning away from God. If you read all the two chapters completely, not just the text we have in the liturgy, you will see also that people hoped for protection inside the city, and it's compared to a pot. So the meat's on the fire, but doesn't get burned. All the wood gets burned. The meat doesn't, because it's protected by the pot inside the fire. But the city will not provide protection to the people who are there from the fire. You see, the fire of the sun is very important because it's the fire of nuclear fusion. The nuclear energy we use today, hopefully for good purposes only, is nuclear fission, the splitting of the atom, and it releases a lot of energy. But nuclear fusion has a lot more energy. It's incredible fire. Anything that gets near the sun will be burned up. And we know the danger of fire. We have to, don't play with fire, that famous proverb, right? And fire as a force for good, for forging iron, for purifying metals. And the fire that will have destruction in the city of all the evil will also be a fire that produces purification, purifies from evil. So we're talking about very tough themes here. And we can intersect them with a couple of other themes that span across Ezekiel and the Gospels today. Some people are spared, and some people are falling into destruction because of abandoning the God of life. This is the teaching of the reading of Ezekiel. And at the end of it, the whole chariot of fire leaves the city. The presence of God leaves the city. It's also a very powerful image. And the arrogance of us as human beings, we don't like to hear that we're arrogant, that we're presumptuous, that we're deceitful, that we're disloyal, that we're unfaithful. Those kind of questions are very unsettling for us, and we rebel against them because they're threatening of our existence. And first of all, nowadays we're not so much concerned about our existence, it's simply our reputation. Just our reputation. And so we're in very, very big themes today, people, serious themes. But in the context of a God who loves, a God who gives life, who wants to give us life. And then there are two themes about the human being that are come across in both readings today. One is the fact that we're personally responsible and accountable for our actions. And the other one is that we belong together socially. And sometimes they can be one emphasized at the cost of the other. And it's a great act of balance and understanding to have harmony between them. To have a good balance between personal accountability and also social dimension, because we are deeply personal, a deeply personal mystery of reality, whom God has created, each one of us, and we are destined for eternal glory. And in that sense, nobody can lay a finger on us. We are in God's presence, in His love. And so we can't hide our own misdemeanor, our own misbehavior, our own guilt, and place it on others. We're responsible. But then there is a responsibility together. For each other. And that comes out more in the gospel reading. That when we see somebody going down the wrong road, we can't stand idly by, as the famous expression goes, because I'm my brother's keeper. The word brother is used. Brother understands, presumes a family connection, the beauty of the love of family, the desire to protect my brother, to help him, to rescue him in need, to be there for my sibling, my family. And now it's applied here to the moral order and how to approach a friend, a brother. Obviously, also in the Christian language, brother would be a disciple of Jesus. And we would say in Christian terms, ecclesial, a church dimension to our religious life. Not just a private dimension, but also a church dimension, a community dimension. We're gathered in together. Another little feature in the reading from Ezekiel is the tau, or the tav, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the instruction is given to these mysterious beings to write a tav, a tau, on each person who has been faithful, to have been faithful to the Torah. So the tav is the first letter of the Torah, of the teaching of God, of God's ways. And there we could recall yesterday's reading how Ezekiel assimilated the Torah. He assimilated God's word. It became his own. The external sign is for those who lived the Torah, who lived it in depth, who belong to God. It's interesting, in the early centuries of Christianity, given that ancient writing of the tav was done like a cross, it coincided with the gesture in baptism of drawing the sign of the cross on the forehead of the person being baptized, part of the ritual of baptism. And it has its roots here in this text of Ezekiel. It's amazing the interconnectedness of our heritage. If the person doesn't listen to the sibling, the brother who comes to point out something that's questionable, then the brother, the sibling, should invite somebody else to come along. And it's done in the context of close friendship, of the context of confidentiality. Because when a person really needs correction, it should be done in the context of love, not in the context of threats, of judgments, of mocking, of harshness. You remember how Jesus said to not extinguish, it's actually from Isaiah, not to extinguish the burning coal, not to break the bent reed. Here we have some reeds right now in front of the camera. And actually there's some others just down here. Let's go here. So let me see if there's any bent reed. These ones are still strong and standing, but they're very abundant, so they're reaching out to get their own space for light. But you could have a bent reed that's bent, and it's not going to grow well, and then you just smash it. Well, if somebody is a bent reed or a smouldering coal, you know, to go on and stomp on it and wipe it out. No, that's not the way if there's any little sign of life at all, encourage life. Add a little water to that plant, give it another chance. Stir the soil a little bit around it, add a little nutrition, bring it along, help it. Love wants to save, to redeem, not to destroy. That gentleness in approach, there's a lot for us there, people. And we all have to learn that path. It's so easy to become the policeman, to become the court marshal, to become the court official that calls out the list of crimes, to become the judge who dishes out the condemnation and the punishment. Across our society, taking on people publicly with big protests in the media and the social media. Of course, things should be brought to people's attention. It's a burden, it's a duty. Then how to do it is a big challenge. And not rejoicing over the destruction of the other. The mourning over evil. That's a beautiful feature also of the reading from Ezekiel. They're mourning. They're weeping over the evil in the city, in the country, in the politics, the breakdown of society. And we see that in the Beatitudes as well. Pope Benedict developed a great commentary on that in the Beatitudes, how weeping in front of evil draws a line, and it says, I'm not going along with that. I can't stop it. It's too big. They're out there. It's a monstrous force of evil at work. But I'm not in agreement. And even the tears of disagreement, laughter and joking about it would be going along with it. Like with a bad joke, an improper joke. And people laugh and smile. Well, no, I don't need to laugh and smile. And if we train the children to respect life, to respect the human body, to respect each other, not to mock, not to laugh at mockery, but to weep. It won't always be cries and tissue paper, but it will be the refusal to laugh at evil in the small things. Because if we resist that evil in the small things, then we will be much more capable of dealing with the bigger things and transforming society. People, let's call it a day. God bless you. See you later, alligators.